Ward Town Hall meeting. Say that one.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, just to say before I start, I'm not an expert in homelessness. I'm just an observer like many of you, and I've read up a little bit myself. So, when I say the 42nd Ward, I really mean downtown Chicago. From like Chicago or Division to Van Buren, the Lake, and say Halstead. And oh, Tim, you work downtown. Pat, I think you're in the 42nd Ward, right? And I've lived in the 42nd Ward for about 8 years. And in the past year or two, I really noticed there was a lot of homelessness. Does anyone else notice this? Pat, you? A bunch of people at work where I work down too, they've noticed too. And some of the things I started noticing, I work at a big hotel downtown by Monroe and Wabash, and I noticed there's always a corner at Wabash and Adams. It's like a 7-Eleven and a train stop, and there's always a few homeless people there. Not a big deal. But a month ago, I went by that corner, and there were like, not two, there were like 10 people, homeless. 10 people, like on one corner. It's like, this is ridiculous. 10 people, I'm going to give what? A quarter to each one? That adds up, right, Pat? So that was one example. Another example is many times I walk home, I live in River North, and sometimes I'll see mentally ill people walking in the middle of the street, like during the day. It's like a strange, you see that too today? And I'm like, wow, this is really bad. And just a few other examples to really hit it home. My brother was in town from Miami. We had a great time a few weeks ago. We took the water taxi. Has anyone ever done that? It's as good as the architectural tour, but instead of $50, it's $5. So we took the water taxi and we went from Chinatown up the river, North Line River, and it was great, to River North. And I saw there were like people living in tents along the river, not just one or two, but like maybe 10, like along the river, Iwak, and I was like, wow, there's homeless people living in tents in Chicago. I was like, this is just another. And my last example, a few months ago, Pat, I think it's by you, you know where Blaze Pizza is?
Yes.
I went there with a girlfriend of mine. We got a crappy pizza, it's not that good. And we take it to sit outside, and then sit down with our pizza, and then all of a sudden this big guy like this with his shirt off, he's talking at the top of his lungs. He's talking about some conspiracy theories about Warren Buffett and buying stocks and this and that. He sits like 2 tables from us, as loud as he can. And I'm thinking to myself, this city sucks. I can't even enjoy pizza with my girlfriend. And she asked me, she's like, why is he shouting? And I said, well, it's obvious he's got mental problems. There's something wrong. And just then, a police car pulls up in front of the restaurant, and 2 cops get out, and I'm thinking, they're probably not going to do nothing. And sure enough, they just walk in the restaurant and get a pizza. But I'm thinking, and my girlfriend's there, we're like, well, what are they going to do? They probably see people like this all the time. The cops, they can't be, they have other stuff to do. So those are just a few examples. And when I said my brother was here from Miami, I actually started visiting my brother in Miami a few times each winter because it's warm. And one of the things I noticed last winter was there's not many homeless people in Miami Beach. I don't know about Miami, but in Miami Beach, South Beach, there's not many homeless people. And I told my brother this. I said, Chicago, we got tons of homeless people. He's like, well, yeah. He's like, a lot of the rich people give money, and we have a lot of different places where these people can stay. And I'm like, wow, that's really great. Why can't we have that in Chicago? I ride the bike all over the city, and I don't see names of wealthy people. No, I'm sure wealthy people do give. And to talk about wealthy people, does anyone know where Triangle Park is? It's kind of the Viagra Triangle.
Old
Gibson.
days.
Of course,
So it's actually, Triangle Park has become one of my favorites. It's a great place just to sit and people watch. And I've been going there for a few years. And it's funny because there you'll see some of the wealthiest people in Chicago. I don't want to talk about names too much, but I've seen Sam Zell. Does anyone know he's a billionaire? See him eating in a restaurant. Jerry Reinsdorf. A lot of these guys, super wealthy billionaires or multi-millionaires, and I see them. And another funny story, actually I was there a few weeks ago for the Air and Water Show, and I was sitting in the park, and as I got up to leave, I saw an older guy sitting there, and a lot of money was underneath the chair where he was sitting, so I just went to pick it up, and I said, is this your money? He's like, yes, thank you. And it was famous rich guy. And it got to me thinking, why can't some of these people give a little like in Miami? Now, one of the reasons why, when I say homeless, I think a lot of the people are mentally ill. And I don't want to get too into it because the speech isn't that long, but one of the reasons we have a lot of mentally ill people is the city of Chicago and I think the state of Illinois have cut back on social services. Because with the unemployment rate is under 5%, pretty much anyone who wants a job can have a job. So I think most of the people are mentally ill people. And it just occurred to me, well, if each of these billionaires give a few million or this or that, why can't we take care of our own? Now, another way to, and I'm sure some of these people already give money, but it just seems to me, if we really made an effort, we can get some of these individuals to give a little more. Now, another way, an idea that the city actually played with a few years ago, it's on an old website of theirs, is to have a commuter tax of, say, 0.5% for people that actually work downtown. Not your average Joes, but say for someone that makes over $300,000-400,000. They live in the suburbs, they work downtown, you can have a 0.5% commuter tax. I think other cities have done this, and you can use this to pay for some of these services. But enough of my ideas. Pat, you said you live in my ward, the 42nd ward. What's your thoughts on some of this? Have you noticed a lot of homeless people?
Yes, I have. And I blow hot and cold about how much to give and who they are and what's actually happening in their life.
Do you think it's gotten worse over the past couple of years?
It appears with the economy getting better, it's gotten worse. And
Right,
I
doesn't
don't
it?
understand that.
Well, it's because I think, like I said, the city has cut back on a lot of social services. And a lot of these,
That's
with
what,
mental, I'm not a doctor, but I assume it wouldn't take much to have a few doctors and a few offices, a few $1 million to take care of quite a few people with their prescriptions and what have you. Because another thing I forgot to mention is if you look at the inmates in Cook County Jail, big jail for Cook County, as many as 30% or more are actually mentally ill people. What does it cost to house someone in Cook County? Can you guess 30 or 40,000 a year?
At least.
So that money alone, probably half of that could be used to provide services to these people. And another thing is just, I mean, I live here, but what about tourists? They come here, many of them will probably see the same thing we do, and they're like, well, maybe I won't come back to Chicago. So if you see the cost involved, it's probably less than what you would otherwise pay, and you're going to get more out of it. Tim, you work downtown? What do you see when you come down?
Well, you say there are a lot
Even
of,
when you have your headphones,
you still see, yes. There are a lot of beggars who come across the bridge, a lot of people, a lot of couple around Union Station.
right, that's another thing I noticed. You go to Metra and you like run a gauntlet.
Yep.
Not just one or two people, but dozens of
Dozens,
people
yeah.
asking for money. And one last thing I've noticed, it's almost like sometimes like a third world country. You don't just see typical homeless, you see people with very bad physical disabilities. People that can hardly move in a wheelchair, all types of problems. And I'm like, I've seen guys with horrible wounds on their legs. I'm like, in Chicago? I mean, this is ridiculous. Anyone else?
I just wanted to share something. My mother, she was a social worker for over 30 years for the city of Chicago. And the city of Chicago wanted to get out of the mental health industry, period. So what they did systematically was, as the employees started retiring, they never rehired anyone. And then when they got down to a skeleton crew of people, they moved them to another facility and then closed down facilities. My mother, she retired because she wasn't sure how the pension thing was going to turn out. So she said, I might as well retire now. But at her last stage, they had a small corner and an STD clinic on 115 near the expressway. It was like 4 ladies left working.
Following up on that point, after Ken Kesey's the movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so many people are outraged at what was going on in mental health clinics. They thought every mental health clinic was like that. They were locking up crazy Indians. They had somebody going in there who was perfectly sane, locked up. Imagine every mental health clinic was like that. They started shutting these down like crazy.
Right.
All over across the state. All these things were shut down, and now we're...
Reagan did that too.
Right, yeah, that too.
Thank you, Zena and Tim. And so that's another reason maybe if the city can't handle the services, maybe we can get some of the more wealthy in the community, like Miami, to help with this situation.
Bring back mental health clinics to the state.
Yeah, bring it back to the state.
So with that, I will conclude our town hall meeting on homelessness, and hopefully we can together work our way